The build section is where most of the learning takes place in terms of the activities you do throughout the class. But in reality, it's the consolidate section that makes all the difference, because this is where the learner is going to put their learning together and then figure out how to apply it back on the job. There are basically two things that happen in the consolidate phase. The first is to conduct feedback and debriefs after activities, and then the second, at the end of the day or at the end of a learning session, is to consolidate the learning and do a review of what was learned. Let's focus first on how to do debriefs. After someone has done an activity, you help them make sense of the activity. What happened? What did they learn? And what does it mean? What could they apply back on the job? And you can think about this as a series of reflection questions that you ask the participants to think about their experiences. And we use the format of full circle thinking with which you might be familiar. What, so what, and now what? So let me explain what happens in each of those steps, and then I'll give you an example of some of the questions you could ask. The what phase is basically replaying the videotape. Not literally, well maybe literally, but mostly metaphorically, replaying the videotape of what happened during the activity. The participant may not remember what they did or what they said or how they reacted to a situation. So you're asking questions to get them to recall what happened and think about what they intended to do, and then also have them think about what actually happened or what they actually did during the activity. And along the way, you're trying to reconnect this with their emotions. How did you feel when that happened? When the situation arose, what were you thinking? And so you're just trying to get them to replay the videotape in their mind. After you've done that, you can go to the so what, which is where you start getting them to explore what works and what didn't work, and why it worked or didn't work. Also getting them to think about what they could change, what other approaches they could use, what they might try differently, and also getting them to connect this activity with what they do back on the job. How does this activity relate to what you do on the job? How is it similar or different? And then after you've gotten them to go through that phase, you finally move to the now what, which is the phase where you think about what they will do next time. So either next time they face a similar situation, or next time when they're back on the job. So what will you do the same way, or what will you do differently next time you encounter this situation? So that's the what, so what, and now what. Let's look at a couple of specific questions you could ask. Of course, there are many more, but this is just an example. You could begin by saying things like, let's walk through what happened. What did you do in the activity? What did you see other people do? What were you trying to do? And what actually happened? How did you feel while you were doing the activity? And at what points did you feel most involved? What points did you feel most challenged? So this is a series of questions you might ask different participants. Then in the so what, you might ask questions like, well, how does this activity relate to your work? What would be the easiest thing to apply or the most difficult? How well did you achieve your objectives? What parts do you feel you did well? What do you feel you could do more effectively? What would be valuable for you to apply back on the job? And then you could move to the now what and actually ask, how will you apply this learning back on the job? What should you do differently, or what should you do the same way from now on? And what will you start doing, stop doing, or continue doing related to this activity? So these are all questions you can ask, and it's important to formulate these questions in advance so that when it comes time to do the debrief, you really know what questions you can ask that will help the learners learn from their activity or from their experience. You'll spend a lot of time practicing this during the class.